All right, here we go. Welcome into Hawk Talk on Melrose. I am Collin. Thank you for tuning in. What I'm going to do today on this show is go over Iowa's transfer portal haul, since the portal technically closed on Friday, meaning no more players can enter the portal unless you're a grad student. If you're a grad student, you can go at any time. Now, Iowa can still go out and get players, but I think for the most part, we're sitting at 13 guys that we got. I still think we're going to get a punter. It actually sounds like yesterday we got a punter, but it sounds like we're going to get another one. And then maybe we get one or two more guys. And so we'll probably end up being at around 15 or 16 guys. But for the most part, it's pretty solidified now. And not only that, then we know now who's leaving, right? We have 8 guys that are leaving the program, which is the lowest in the Big Ten, which is just speaks to the culture and stability of the program. Feel like we're always towards the bottom of that. Now, there were a few players like Brian Allen, Cone Entringer, where it's kind of head scratching that they would leave. And it goes to show that even with Iowa's culture, even with Iowa's stability, with the coaching staff, we are still not immune to this new landscape of college football, which is all about money, right? Like guys can get poached, guys can leave. You don't really think it's going to happen until it happens. And, you go back a few years ago, Justin Jacobs, that was one where I was like, oh my gosh, you're starting linebacker for us, getting coached by one of the best of the best, and you're well on your way to probably make the draft, and then you're leaving. That's just the new landscape of college football. It's just good that Iowa doesn't get a whole lot, right? It might happen, but it might only be a player or two at a time. And so that is good. All right. Before we actually talk football, I do want to bring up basketball because Iowa got a really big win yesterday against Indiana, a much needed win, because when you look at this basketball team going into yesterday, our resume was lacking. It needed some substance, right? It needed something to start making it look a little bit better. And what was that? Getting a quad 1 win, right? What was that? Going on the road and getting a road win in the Big Ten, because the committee values that. Like, they want to see, can you go, you don't have to win them all, but can you go on the road a few times a year and get a win? And Iowa was 0-4 leading up to yesterday, and they had no quad 1 wins. And so yesterday was just big time, finally getting our first quad 1 win, and then finally winning a game on the road. And now it sets us up for 6 games coming up here, right? We just had 3 games that were really difficult: Illinois, Purdue, Indiana. Now we got 6 games that are all winnable. Now, are we going to win them all? I mean, hopefully we do, but they're all teams that, like, hey, if we play like we did against Indiana, if we play like we did against Purdue, even though we lost, we should have a good shot of winning all 6 games coming up. And then it sets us up for a massive game on February 14th against Purdue at home, and then Nebraska a couple days later. I mean, that's been the shock of the year, is seeing Nebraska and, still undefeated. I'm sure they probably won't be undefeated by the time they play us, because they still have to play like Illinois again. They play Michigan on the road, but they'll probably still be like maybe a 1 or 2 loss team going into that game. And so we got some massive games coming up after that. But, just a great opportunity now. We get the win yesterday. Now, yes, that 3-game slide did suck, and I hate using this as an excuse, but I really do think it's a valid excuse. We were sick. I mean, there's no question about it. I know somebody that knows a guy that's very connected with the program, and he pretty much just told me that, yeah, from like a couple of days before the Minnesota game all the way up until like the Illinois game, so about a week long there, pretty much the entire team got sick. And some guys got it worse than others. Like Tavion Banks, they even said on the broadcast that he lost 10 pounds. So some guys got it worse. Sounds like they didn't practice a whole lot that week. And it just made sense. Like, you just saw the energy. It just wasn't your typical Ben McCollum coach team, right? That Minnesota game, it just, energy wasn't there until the very end. Illinois, same thing. Even though, that Illinois game, you got the entire crowd behind you. I mean, that was a great crowd. It was a really good crowd. Iowa showed up that day, but just the energy wasn't there, and it just all makes sense now. And I told Tyler this, don't really want to hear this, but it's after that Illinois game, it's like, okay, let's see how we look once we are fully healthy. Like, once we get past this flu and sickness, let's see how we look. And you saw against Purdue, even though we didn't win, and I'm not into moral victories, but you saw, okay, this is a team that we are accustomed to. This is a team that we've been watching pretty much all year, that gives a shit about defense, right? That plays with effort, plays with intensity, right? Brings it their all. And you saw that against Purdue, and then you saw that clear as day yesterday against Indiana. So that is good to see. kind of back on track now. It does suck that Minnesota game was a loss because, those are games where you just want to win. Number one, it's a road game, but it gives you a little bit more cushion for the tournament. And so losing that game sucked. And then like losing against Illinois, I really feel like if we were fully healthy and not sick, we at least go 1-1 in those two games. Really like what I'm seeing. I would say maybe there's two things that I'm so far kind of just, we need to get better at. And that's number one, Alvaro Figueres. I mean, he was my X factor going into the year. I told Tyler before the year, man, if after this year is all said and done, if you told me that Alvaro is going to be a type of guy that gets us over 10 points per game, gets a few doubles, right? Is a good rebounder. I think this team can go pretty far. If he does it, I don't think this team is going to be bad, but like, I think it's going to be very limited. And so far, our second best player, which is Alvaro, he just hasn't stepped up to the challenge. Now, Ben did say he thought he played his best game defensively in the second half yesterday, which is good to see. Maybe that's something that he can continue to grow at and being a pretty good defender. But I just want to see more on the offensive side of the ball. I mean, he's shooting 41% from three. So start taking a few more threes if you need to. I mean, you get some looks from time to time, be a little bit more aggressive. It just seems like when he's out there, he's not really providing anything for us. And then the second thing for me is just the overpassing sometimes. And I get it. It's the style that we play. We like to dwindle down the shot clock and really make the defense earn it. But sometimes it's like, okay, we get an open look with maybe 8 seconds left on the shot clock. Okay, just shoot it. But no, we start overpassing and then it leads to a turnover or it leads to a really bad shot. And then that bad shot then leads to an easy rebound for the other team, which could then lead to a fast break opportunity. And so sometimes the overpassing gets a little annoying. I get why we do it, but I want to get to the point where, hey, if you're open, take the shot. Don't pump fake and be hesitant. Just take the shot. And so that's something that hopefully we start seeing a little bit more as the games go on. But yeah, that's it for basketball. I'm going to switch to football now and talk a little football. All right, so transfer portal. So right now, Iowa is sitting at 13 guys. So we got 4 guys from the FBS, 3 from the group of 5, and then 1 from the ACC, SMU. And then we got 9 guys from the FCS. And pretty much all those guys, for the most part, were pretty productive where they were at. And that's what leads me into this first take that I'm gonna talk about, because I've been seeing, and honestly, even some Iowa fans that are saying this, not just guys, from the outside, but even Iowa fans that are like, why? I don't know why people are excited about this portal haul. They're just a bunch of guys that are lower level that, are they really going to translate to this level? Why be excited about this? And two things. Number one, and I know just because a team might be successful at it doesn't mean that we will be, but it shows that it can be done, and that's Indiana. I mean, Indiana football going into last year was pretty much a lot of FCS guys and guys from JMU that came with Signetti, and look at what they did. And look at where they're at now. And so it can be done. Doesn't mean it's going to happen. Doesn't mean every team that follows that model, it's going to work for them. No, because it all comes down also to coaching and things like that. But it shows that it can be done. And then number two, and I said this last year to Tyler, I mean, last spring when we went out and got some guys from the FCS level, or, like Mark Gronowski, I'm to the point where I'd rather take guys that were really productive where they were at, and they have a chip on their shoulder to want to go up a level to prove that, hey, I'm worthy to play at this level. They're going to put in the work. They're going to put in the time to do that. Then a guy that was at a Power 4 school that had zero production, and there's a reason why they are leaving that said school. And I'm just going to use the example. And I'm not saying this always happens, right? But like Caleb Brown, 2 years ago, we get him from Ohio State. We're all super excited, right? But at the end of the day, like, he had no stats at Ohio State, and he's leaving for a reason. I mean, if he really felt like he was going to be the next really good wide receiver for Ohio State, because they sent a lot of guys to the league, he would have stayed there. But he knew, like, he's probably buried on the depth chart. I'm not as good as some of these guys are, and so he leaves. And then what does he do for us? He doesn't really do a whole lot, right? So I'm to the point now where, hey, I would like to get a few Power 4 transfers that are proven, but hey, let's go out, let's get guys that are highly productive where they were at, guys that, have multiple years of eligibility left. I love that we're going that route this year. Last year, we took a lot of guys that only had 1 year, like Sam Phillips, for example, from Chattanooga. I think like for him, he would have benefited greatly from having another year at Iowa. It really sucks that he was only here for 1 year. Like Mark Gronowski, same thing. Think about how good Mark would be going into next year, right? Another off season, participating in spring, things like that. So getting a guy, especially at a lower level for just 1 year, doesn't really help that great, because you need to dedicate some of that time to develop, because not every guy is going to translate right away. They might eventually, but they might need more than just a year. So we went out this year, and besides just one guy, and that was Bryce Stevenson from Holy Cross, defensive tackle, every single guy has 2-3 years left. And that's huge, because even if they don't make a mark next year, they might in 2027, they might in 2028, right? We have a really good track record of developing guys and producing, right, at this level. And so that's what I love about this haul that we got, is we got a lot of guys that will probably play right away. But then we got guys like Trent Wilson, for example, offensive lineman from JMU, 3 years eligibility left. Probably won't see the field next year, more of maybe just like a depth piece. But come 2027, 2028, he could be one of the best players that we got out of this haul, right? Because we might develop him into something really good. And so that's what I like. And one last thing about the portal too, and I've said this to Tyler many times. I've said it on this episode many times, or this podcast, I should say. I love the way Iowa does this, right? They still utilize the high school ranks. It's almost like the NFL draft, where you're going out and you're doing your scouting, and doesn't mean that they're all going to pan out, just like an NFL team when they get a draft, when they draft somebody. But you're doing your work, and you feel comfortable bringing in this guy, and then you develop them into something good. And once again, Iowa has a great track record at that, finding diamonds in the rough, and they turn out to be pretty damn good for us. And so we use that. And then every year there is going to be a little bit of turnover, obviously seniors leaving, but there are going to be a few guys that leave as well. Just like this year, Brian Allen, Collin Entringer, guys that you didn't think were going to leave, and they do. So there's always going to be a little turnover. And then, okay, bam, that's when we utilize the portal. That's when we look at the roster. We look at, okay, where are the holes at? Where do we not feel as good at, or where do we maybe need some depth at? And okay, let's go use the portal. And so like this year, it was wide receiver, it was defensive line, it was safety, and then maybe sprinkle in, okay, maybe running back, maybe offensive line. And then that's what we did. We went out and we got a few guys for each position. And then the positions were like maybe just one more guy just for depth purposes, things like that. Then, okay, we just go out and get one guy, like Trent Wilson or LJ Phillips at running back, even though LJ Phillips is more than just a depth piece for us. I think he's going to be a major player for us next year alongside Kamari Moulton. All right, so how I'm going to do this, because I don't want to make this boring. I really don't. I don't want to go through each guy and just give you some stats, and because I'm sure most of you guys listening kind of know who we all got and kind of know the background for all these guys. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to do, number one, who I think will be immediate impacts. And then I'm going to give you a ranking 13-1 of the guys that I'm most excited about going in this year. And I just felt like doing it this way, I can still talk about each guy, but we can do it a little bit fun than just going through each player. Let's begin here. Immediate impacts for myself. I think it starts at safety, Tyler Brown from JMU. I'm not just saying this to say this. I think he might, when it's all said and done, might be better than Collin Entringer. And once again, I know it's like, well, you're just saying that because Collin left. But with Tyler Brown, he has 2 years left. And so even if like next year, maybe he doesn't have the season like Collin Entringer, come 2027 though, that's when he could be really, really good for us. Anthony Hawkins, the other safety from Villanova. Kamari Brown, defensive end. Bryce Stevenson from Holy Cross, defensive tackle. Tony Diaz, wide receiver. Evan James, LJ Phillips, running back. And then Eli Osick, which is the kicker from North Dakota State. Those guys are all immediate impact. All guys that either will start or will play a lot this next year for us. And then the next tier, which is more just like backup reserves, we'll see the field a little bit. And I have there Xavier Styles, defensive back from Robert Morris. I don't even know how to pronounce this guy's name. Emmanuel Ogjabu from North Dakota. We got him on Friday, actually, defensive tackle. And then Lance Ingold from Northern Illinois, defensive end. So those guys, like I said, I think we'll see the field next year. They just won't be, I don't think they'll be starters. I don't think they'll play, majority of snaps. And then two guys that are just more development, guys that more than likely will not see the field in 2026, but will probably in the years to come. That is Trent Wilson, JMU offensive lineman that I just talked about a little bit earlier, and then Lance Bigley from SMU, the wide receiver that we got that I'm almost positive was a preferred walk-on for us. And so that is that. And then now I'm going to give you my rankings 13 through 1, 13 being the guy that I'm, least excited about. Doesn't mean I don't think they're good. I just least excited about. And then number 1 being the guy that I am like really, really, really excited about. All right, starting at number 13, Lance Bigley, the SMU transfer wide receiver. Once again, I'm pretty sure he's a preferred walk-on for us. He's good friends with Tony Diaz, the other wide receiver that we got. He had no stats at SMU, so you can't really take much away. I don't mind the pickup considering I watched his film. He is kind of a speedster. He has a track background, so I don't mind the pickup. It's just another guy in the wide receiver room. Number 12, Lance Ingold, defensive end from Northern Illinois. He has 3 years left. And so I think that's the type of guy, 6'5", 260 pounds. He's going to add some weight in the offseason. I think he's a guy that maybe in 2027, 2028 can be the guy for us. He has 17 tackles this last year, 2.5 tackles for loss, 1 sack. More of a pass rusher than a run stopper. I just view him as more of a project. Might see the field a little bit this year, but I think he's more of a project for us. Number 11, same thing in terms of just a project, and that is Trent Wilson from JMU, the offensive guard. He played both left and right guard this year. I also think I read somewhere where, if need be, he could also play center as well. But he's just another guy where I think probably won't see the field next year unless we really need him to. Like we start having injuries, and hopefully we don't have that. Number 10 is defense tackle Emmanuel Ogjabu. Once again, I don't know how to pronounce his last name. I'm sorry. I'm sure at some point I'll figure it out. But he has 3 years left. And what I like about him is love his frame. I think he's 6'3", 6'4", 295 pounds. And so he is kind of that type of guy that can clog up the middle and stop the run lanes. He had 11 tackles for North Dakota, 3 tackles for loss, 2 sacks, 16 pressures, 13 quarterback hurries, and only 418 snaps. So a lot of upside with him. Just doesn't have much experience. But I think he is a great role player for our defense tackle. I think he's going to be, we needed like one more guy, right? You have Bryce Hawthorne, you have Bryce Stevenson, you have, Devin Kennedy, Brad Fitzgibbon. But I just think getting like one more guy, and like Will Hubbard, who's a walk-on that has been pretty decent for us, right? So you just want to get as much depth as possible at that position. And so getting him from North Dakota, he was committed to UConn, decommitted, came to Iowa. Pretty good get for us. Number 9, Xavier Styles, safety from Robert Morris. Now, with him, he has 3 years left as well. He was Robert Morris's highest graded defensive player. And so going back to what I said about, okay, yeah, these guys are at lower level. Will they translate? I don't know. Just have to wait and see. But we are at least getting guys that are, once again, very productive where they were at. Really good in coverage. He had 36 tackles, 1 interception, 6 pass breakups, 2 forced fumbles, 1 fumble recovery. I just don't know if he'll play a lot next year, but he has 3 years left. And so that's why I put him at number 9. Number 8, Eli Osick, the kicker from North Dakota State. I think this was a very underrated pickup for us because you think Iowa football and how crucial and how critical having a good kicker is just because of the style that we play. Hopefully, as the years to come, we don't have to rely on the kicker as much, but it's still a style that we need a good kicker. And we're losing Drew Stevens, who had an up and down year this year, but at the end of the day, still a really good kicker for us. And so getting Eli Osick was a good get. He was one of the top kickers in the FCS level. Definitely doesn't have the range like Stevens does, but he is very consistent. He made pretty much all his field goals at North Dakota State. And so I have him at number 8. Number 7, Anthony Hawkins, the safety from Villanova. Another guy, 3 years left. Love his frame, 6'3". He had 59 tackles, 4 tackles for loss, 6 pass breakups, 2 interceptions, really good at pass coverage. And he's kind of a guy that can play hybrid. He can be safety / cash. And so you can kind of put him all over the field. I do think he will play next year. I have him at number 7. Number 6 is Bryce Stevenson from Holy Cross. Now, he's the only guy that has only 1 year left. Similar to the guy from North Dakota, really like his frame, 295 pounds, another guy, kind of a big body guy that can clog up the middle, really solid against the run. And he has a lot of experience. So this last year he had 37 tackles, 3.5 tackles for loss, 2 quarterback hurries, and he's logged over 1,300 snaps in his playing career at Holy Cross. So a guy that can come in that has a lot of experience. Number 5 is Kamari Brown, the defensive end from Elon. 2 years left. He brings a pass rushing presence that we desperately need. He had 40 pressures at Elon, 66 tackles, 16 tackles for loss, 12 sacks, and 3 forced fumbles this last year. He was 5th in the FCS in sacks and 1st in the FCS in sack yards. So that's really good. And then he was actually graded better against the run and tackling than he was his pass rush. And his pass rush was pretty good. He had team best 50 stops against the run. And so just a very productive player and a guy that might start for us next year. I mean, honestly, you have Kenneth Merriweather, you have Epinenza, but he's a guy that I think could start for us come next year. And number 4 is Evan James from Furman. Very good freshman year. In just 9 games, he had 65 catches, 796 yards, and 7 touchdowns for them. He has 3 years left. He's just the ideal slot guy for us. Kind of a smaller guy, but very quick, very elusive, has the speed. He averaged 5.5 yards after catch, and he had only 2 drops, 82 targets as a freshman. And so, you're bringing a guy with a lot of potential. At number 3 is LJ Phillips from South Dakota, running back that we got. I don't think this was a position that we desperately needed a running back, but hey, if you got a guy like, LJ Phillips, who had close to 2,000 yards in the FCS this last year, he led the FCS and FBS in total rush yards this season. He had over 6.5 yards per carry. He was their highest graded offensive player for South Dakota, had 55 runs of 10 yards or more. Like, if you have a guy like that is willing to come to your school, yeah, you take him. And I think he's going to pair up very, very well with Kamari Moulton. You talk about a running back room, really good, right? LJ Phillips, Kamari Moulton, Xavier Williams, Nathan McNeil. I mean, that's really, really good. Number 2 then is Tony Diaz, wide receiver from University of Texas, Rio Grande Valley, I think is what the school he was at. He has 3 years left. Just a guy that we desperately needed. We needed him. Beat out Alabama. We beat out Illinois. And we beat out Kentucky for him. He could play slot. He could play from the outside. He has that swagger that we just need in the wide receiver room. Had 67 catches this last year, 881 yards, 11 touchdowns, had 268 total yards after catch this year, was 2nd in yards among freshmen in the FCS and FBS, and 1st in touchdowns among freshmen in the FBS and FCS. So very productive his freshman year at this school. Can he translate to the Big Ten? We'll have to wait and see. But once again, he's bringing that swagger, that juice that we need in the wide receiver room. And then number 1, Tyler Brown from JMU. I'm just really excited about this guy. I think he can come in and be really, really good for us. He has 2 years left. We have to remember, he played for a team that went to the college football playoffs. He was their 2nd leading tackler, had good grades in coverage and tackling against the run. He can line up pretty much anywhere on the defense side of the ball. He had 80 tackles, 5 tackles for loss, 1 sack, 1 interception, 6 pass breakups. Just highly productive at JMU. And once again, a playoff team. I think he's going to come in and be immediate impact for us. And that's why I have him at number 1. I mean, for me, you can make the case like Tony Diaz just because we needed somebody in the wide receiver room really bad. And your hope is that he can be really good for us. But I just think Tyler Brown, like, I just have that confidence. He's going to get coached by the best coach in college football. And I just think he's going to be really, really good for us. I mean, he was really good at JMU. I think he's going to translate to Iowa and be the next best safety that we seem to always have at Iowa. So that is it. That is our transfer portal haul so far. Once again, we could still get a few more guys. Not saying that it's completely over, but I think the foundation is set. These are the guys that we got. And I think, we can maybe look back in a few weeks from now and grade this portal haul. But I think so far, I think Tyler Barnes and co did a really, really good job. I mean, I don't see a lot of complaints with this at all. And clearly we are set on quarterbacks. We didn't go after anybody. If we didn't feel good of what we had in the quarterback room, we definitely would have went after another quarterback, but we didn't. So that tells me that we feel good about that. And once again, we just addressed areas of need. That's all we did. And we didn't lose a whole lot of guys either. So overall, really good haul. All right, that will do it for this episode. Thank you guys all for listening. Until next time, have a good rest of your week and go Hawks.